Hey guys, this is Dan with Gears and Gadgets. Thanks for tuning in. So it's 111 degrees outside. It's pretty toasty. Phoenix has actually broken the record for most amount of 110 degree plus days for a summer, I believe the record was. So yeah, it's been a toasty one. But I'm coming to you guys to let you know that I think I'm going to be selling this 2018 Heritage 114. And I think I'm going to dump it for about $2 grand and maybe a case of Crystal Pepsi. Because, well, a couple days ago, sitting down, minding my own business, taking a dump as I do, and all of a sudden, bam, in comes Shadetree Surgeon to tell me that my motorcycle is a piece of garbage. I'm just kidding, obviously. I mean, he made a video talking about the Heritage. He had a long-term review bike from Bert's Harley Davidson, and yeah, he rode it for a few thousand miles, and he was left rather unimpressed. So I thought it was kind of funny. I'm like watching this video and I'm thinking like, man, like, he's no joke, super convincing. You know, I really thought that I loved my motorcycle, but he had me watching the video going like, man, my bike's a piece of shit. But you know, with all seriousness, his review was actually very subjective, and he disclaimered the crap out of that video. I almost don't think he gives himself enough credit for how much he disclaimers the fact that it really is just subjective, and a lot of his critiques are based around design. A few of the things that he made mention of that I absolutely totally agree with. Yeah, you know, he's talking about the fake gas cap. He actually twisted his right off his loaner, which I thought was pretty funny. I hate it. I think it's kind of goofy. The mixing bowl that he references as far as the old school kind of throwback for the drum covers that they're trying to kind of throw that Heritage back on. I removed mine because I thought it looked kind of hokey. So the first time that I got my chance to change my front tire, and I had it all apart, I took the spacer out of that little mixing bowl, as he calls it, which I think is a fair assessment. Some of the other things he mentioned, you know, I do want to say, he talked about the, I guess, rather uninspiring suspension on this bike. I would ask him if he actually did adjust the shock on the rear, because I've actually upped mine to be rather stiff because I prefer my bike to stay planted on the road and not be so mushy. So I do wonder if he did make that adjustment on that shock. But I don't have a whole lot to say negative about the suspension on this Heritage. I actually find it to be rather comforting, which gets me to the next point. He talks about the seat, saying the seat is uncomfortable, and I almost have to disagree with that one too. Now, I suffer from some pretty significant back issues, back pain and stuff like that. Now, I actually went out and test rode with the Harley Davidson hammock seat. Harley of Scottsdale let me take one out for a couple days, and everybody rant and raves about that hammock seat as being super comfortable, and in all reality, I wasn't really sold on it. I think that this OEM seat is actually super comfortable. I did a video about how my bike actually got sliced the seat because some dummy who was trying to steal my bike actually must have had like a razor blade in his pocket or something. I hope it stabbed him in the nutsack. But he ripped my seat, and I actually just found another one on eBay and bought it for super cheap, and I have no desire to change this seat. The studs, that's super subjective. I really don't even notice them. I prefer those studs that are on the bike today as opposed to the old, you know, chrome studs on the droopy leather bags of the old Heritage. So I honestly could do without them any studs, but I understand they're doing it because, you know, Heritage, and it's better to do something than nothing. So I think this bike is actually a really good mix between old school, new school, and I think that's what Harley was going for, in my opinion. And especially on the Heritage Special, where it's blacked out treatment, I think they did a really fantastic job of marrying those two concepts together. A couple other things he noticed or mentioned was the exhaust note. It's not bad once you throw some tab pipes on there. I'll link that video up above also. I guess this is turning into a I'll link my other videos video, but yeah, that's just a new Harley thing. They all sound like sewing machines a little bit until you throw some pipes on there that are a little bit more lively. And I love these tab performance pipes, and combined with the DynoJet Power Vision, I mean, it basically made this bike a completely different motorcycle with the tune and all that. So huge fan of the power this bike puts out. It is with the 114, I mean, he was on a 107, but with the 114 it was rather in my opinion a peppy bike, and all that I would ever need. But the bags and stuff like that, I mean, he kind of made the jump from like a Softail standard to a Heritage, and said, you know, you could take a Softail standard and add the bags, the windscreen, and basically get the same bike and have, you know, thousands of dollars left to do a bunch of motor work and stuff like that. And I'm not saying he's wrong. As a matter of fact, he's definitely right. But if you're looking for a bike OEM, take it off the showroom floor and have all the utility that you do out of this this bike. The bags for me are incredibly functional. I've had no leaking problems, but I'm also here in Arizona where it barely rains, and if it does, you know, a couple times a year, I don't really get on the bike and ride all that much, because why bother? But I did take this bike to the Bring It Home ride last year, the world record attempt, and I got soaked in some absolutely terrifying rain, and I had no problem with any water getting in the bags. So and to be honest with you, even if that was a concern, if I was on a Street Glide or a Road King, I would wrap my stuff up in, you know, anything that I didn't want to get wet. I would wrap up for the sake of additional safety anyways. But that's just me. It's just one of those things where, yeah, you could buy another bike, throw some bags on it, kind of make it your own, but you start doing the windscreen and all that, and it's at that point you might as well just buy a bike off the floor. Now, he says he's 6'1" and suffered from a lot of buffeting off the windscreen, and I don't get it. I don't get all that buffeting. Maybe I have worse posture. Maybe it's all about how you're sitting, where your head's at. Obviously torso size makes the difference too, so just because you're 6'1", you know, you may have a longer torso and shorter legs, or shorter legs and a longer torso, so that's going to affect where your head sits and how that buffeting it kind of comes off. But I have a bowling ball sized head, and I don't really have any issues with the wind buffeting, so I'm a huge fan of the windscreen. Now if you compare it to like a Street Glide or something like that, yeah, you get a little better pocket of air, I guess, to ride, and it's not as buffety, but I have no problems with this whatsoever. But either way, guys, I thought it was a fascinating take on the bike that I own, and I 100% respect all of his opinions that he had, because again, these were all disclaimed as personal, subjective type things, which we're not all going to like the same thing. That's what makes us unique, is we all like different things. Although one thing I did want to mention too, as I see the reflection here in the car in front of me, he mentioned the LEDs up front, that they looked cheap and tacked on. For me, that was actually a perceived value thing. When I bought this bike, I actually thought that they looked rather awesome, and you know, once you upgrade the turn signals to LEDs, it looks even better. So for me, it's just funny, you look at somebody and they think it looks cheap, and then somebody like me looks at it and says, well, that's added value, you get the passing lamps, and that's a whole lot of stuff you would have to buy extra. So for me, this bike is great. I love it. So with all that being said, guys, thank you very much for tuning in. I just wanted to make a little bit of a, not really rebuttal, but just a video about it, because, well, it's the bike that I spend a lot of money to own. So thank you very much for tuning in. If this is your first time tuning in, please hit that subscribe button down below. Remember, likes go a long way to help support the channel, and I will see you guys next time.